Hello everybody and good afternoon. My name is Evan Evans and this is Mobile Weather Center, the one-stop place to get all your hurricane information regarding this upcoming season and more. So today we're going to be looking at the system in the Gulf that everyone has been talking about lately. So for that, since it's not showing up on the latest models, we're actually going to go ahead and go back a couple runs. You know what, let's go to the Thursday run. And so this was kind of the system that everyone was kind of talking about. And you guys can see it forms off of a decaying front here. And then it goes ahead and decides to try to form before making its way towards the Louisiana coast. Just a little area of low pressure between about 1,000 and 1,010 millibars. That's what we've kind of been seeing. There was in fact actually one run where we saw near 996 millibars, which was actually pretty interesting. So if we could get a system like that to form, that would be a pretty decent May storm in my own opinion. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what the current run says and what the current ENSO kind of, discussion is here. What type of event are we in and what can we expect? So to view this current run, we're actually going to go ahead and take a look at the moisture here in the total precipitable water. This is the GFS MSLP, also the measurement of the low pressures. So we're going to go ahead and kind of scroll on through so you guys can see there's mostly dry air kind of surface throughout the US right now. But here's the thing. You get that warm, moist air out there in the plains. That's what we're looking at for that severe weather threat looming soon, but we'll discuss that later on. We go through the run here, and you guys can see there's this big area, this big plume of moisture here, about centered, right over Cuba, south of the Keys, and east of Cancun. As we kind of go ahead and draw this on, that plume of moisture just grows exponentially. And this is the 24th time frame, May 24th. And as we continue to scroll, there's that low pressure right there wrapped around nicely with some precipitable water here, some moisture. And as we get towards the Louisiana coast area, it may not be that significant of a low pressure, but there is the precipitable water there. And there is some, maybe 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, maybe some higher gusts. So it's definitely going to be interesting to go ahead and track this system. But right now, it does not seem that big of a threat. Alrighty guys, so now that we got the GFS model out of the way, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some sea surface temperature anomalies, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 7-day change. And one thing you guys will notice is that the Pacific and the parts of the ENSO is actually cooling off a little bit, but if you look over towards the east, you guys can see that the Caribbean, the MDR, the Gulf of Mexico, and parts of the Southern Atlantic is cooling off as well, and I believe that is those western trade winds kind of picking up a little bit, but we all know here that we're still around 2 to 3 months from the peak of hurricane season. These waters are definitely going to warm up. We are not going towards anything of an El Nino. That's highly unlikely. It's less than a 1/10 shot. It's nearly an 800th shot. So, it's very, very low probability chances here. Very, very low. And these waters are definitely going to warm up. And I believe the Pacific over time is going to eventually continue to keep cooling down as we get towards the heart of the hurricane season. Alrighty, and so now we're going to be taking a look at the CDAS sea surface temperature anomalies. That's based in Celsius, based on a 1981 to 2010 climatology. And as you guys can note right here, like I said, we're having these cooler waters running below the all-time average, and we're having the Southern Atlantic also running below the all-time average. And so a couple things to note here is that, you can basically see based off of this that we're not going to completely do a 180 and go back to El Nino like I discussed in the last part of the video. And another thing is these waters, these MDR waters, nothing really forms out here in the beginning of the season or even preseason. So I'm not too worried about as far as this cutting off development as of right now, because of the fact that most storms usually form in the Caribbean and parts of the Gulf of Mexico, and those are running near or above average. So I don't think anything like that's really going to cut off development this early in the season. And in fact, I think these warmer Gulf waters and the lessening shear over time as we get into some parts of June is actually going to kind of boost that activity in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. But like I said, nothing much to worry about there in the MDR. Nothing's really going to form out there this time of year, and also it's below average. Even if it's by a little bit, we still got the Saharan Dust. We're going to discuss that later on. I'm getting a little bit off track here. Here's the thing everybody's been talking about. This is the Saharan air layer, and what the Saharan air layer does is it's a plume of dust that comes off the coast of Africa, off the Saharan desert, and it kind of inhibits the you know, tropical development out in the MDR, like I was noting in the past parts of this video. And so one thing to note here is that it's actually come off the coast a month before it's usually, you know, anticipated to. And what that directly means for the season is that it's going to end sooner. So it's going to open up that window even further for tropical development, which is definitely not a good sign as those MDR waters start to kind of warm up and we get towards the hearts of the hurricane season, where we can have those long track hurricanes. But it's also going to open up, you know, the Caribbean parts of the Gulf, as that Saharan air layer likes to tend to get up towards the parts of those, you know, areas, and kind of likes to inhibit development preseason and early season. But I think if this ends soon, you know, we could have a nice little window for the Caribbean and Gulf to produce some storms throughout June and July. So I kind of wanted to go over some common misconceptions here about this upcoming hurricane season. A lot of people were saying that this early season storm in the Pacific was a sign that this Pacific hurricane season is going to be, you know, extreme. Like, we're going to have a lot of storms. This is a sign of a record season. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that it's not. And here's why. So right now, as far as atmospheric conditions go, they're not ripe enough to, you know, kind of produce these storms. It's not the exact telling tale of what this hurricane season's going to be if the atmosphere is not even prepped. Right now, you know, you could get a tropical depression off of a decaying front, or you could get an area low pressure kind of spin off in the Caribbean. But right now, those things aren't just likely. And right now, as far as it goes, the Pacific had a area that, you know, could produce some development, and it did. As we go on further into the season, that wind shear is going to kind of start to grow, per se, over the parts of the Eastern Pacific and parts of towards, you know, the Caribbean. But we're going to have that window in the Atlantic where there's basically the wind shear is all cleaned out. We're not going to have as much Saharan dust, and we're going to have those sea surface temperatures that are going to be ripe. And so we're going to have, you know, this atmospheric, you know, kind of setting that's going to be more ripe for these hurricanes as we get on towards the heart of the hurricane season. Or as in the Pacific, over time, those conditions, you know, that support those types of storms out there are just going to, you know, go downhill over time and become less supportive. So long story short, as we go on, the Pacific's actually going to become more unfavorable, and the Atlantic is going to become more favorable. So alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys did in fact enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload from me. Be sure to like the video and comment what you guys want to see next. And until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Take it easy, be safe.